going live. And we are live. Welcome to the stream, everyone. We got a really exciting stream for y'all today. If you don't know, there was recently a Chaos tournament held in the Chaos Corner Discord server. Link to that is in the description down below. But we've got the finals of that tournament happening right now. And Chaos format is a really fun format. It's from 2004. Basically the last format without any cards banned. They were just limited. So really high power format, really exciting and really fun. But I'm not alone commentating this game. I've also got a very special guest, LilManYGO. So, introduce yourself. Let the people out there know who you are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, my name is Nick. I am one of the members over at LilManYGO. We do a lot of retro Yu-Gi-Oh on my channel. So if you like the Edison, the Go format, and if you like basically anything else I like to play and post, be sure to check out the channel, subscribe. See some videos. I'm usually just goofing around on whatever I'm doing. People basically know me most for being the person who's innovated Amaryllis Burn in Edison format, and basically majority of the channel is me crafting and trying to push that deck to the limits. Because I got third with it at the Ultimate Time Wizard back in June. It was one of the more largest Konami events that they had at the national stage. So, but I do like to play other formats too. So, very excited to be here, and obviously very big fan of the channel that B Sox puts together. So, but we're gonna see some exciting duel monsters, and I just can't wait to be here. I'm very
Oh yeah.
excited.
And I'm a really big fan of your channel as well. I think a lot of the very interesting optimization stuff that you do with Amaryllis and most recently Lightsworn too is really cool. And it's pushing people to experiment with Edison decks that they might not experiment with otherwise, because I feel like a lot of people just gravitate towards Vayu Turbo, Blackwing, Diva here, all
Right.
those stuff. But there's a lot out there in Edison, and it's really cool to see it blazing the way for that sort of stuff. Um, but
For sure,
yeah,
man. But enough about Edison. Look at this start, right? We
I
have
know,
Thunder
right?
Dragon Century. Man, you've seen the hand of the first grip. It's too good. Like one of the craziest things about this format is just opening with the hand knowledge cards, whether it's Does Shoot, Forceful, Confiscation, so strong. He's not talking about TT, MST instead. So his hand is looking a little bit brickier. So a back row sweeper in Yata could end the game real quickly. So,
Oh yeah.
but
And also that Kaiku coming down there, so even if Barcode is able to get Chaos set up, they can't bring out CED until they clear this Kaiku, and nothing else in their hand really does clear Kaiku. So really commanding start for Clemens here. We also know 2 Thunder Dragons in hand, so very easy light and dark access for them. And since BLS and CED are both legal in this format, that's really, really big to have set up early.
for sure, for sure. Snatch Steal
Oh,
off the top. Very good top deck.
yeah. This can allow Barcode to sort of pick apart Clemens' grave, get that Thunder Dragon out of grave. Now, Clemens can pitch another Thunder Dragon whenever they want to, because you can fail to find in this format. But still getting one out of grave is still pretty good. And it puts
Yeah,
Clemens into an awkward spot here.
absolutely. And I love how Failed to Find is a feature in these earlier formats. I think it reminds me so much of Magic, early Magic the Gathering, and how much Failed to Find mattered so much in some of those key, you know, those key points within the game and some key interactions. It's so sad that Yu-Gi-Oh took it away. I don't even remember when they took it away, but it's so cool that we're able to do that. And MST answers the snatch.
Yeah,
So
that's
good.
that's really good. I was thinking they might not have MST because a good thing just to set in the beginning is MST, because the only thing that clears Kaiku just on its own is kind of Breaker. I guess Tribe does too, but then your opponent's pitching a card as
Right.
well. Um, so generally, if you're setting a back row into what Barcode has here, setting an MST is a pretty good bluff, and it does deal with Snatch Steal, which is one of the only ways that Barcode can sort of deal with the Kaiku. So yeah, I was thinking okay, maybe they didn't have MST, maybe they drew it for turn, but either way, they were able to fire it here, get back the Kaiku, and they're back in that commanding position here. And painful, another powerful, powerful card in this format. Just absolutely busted here.
Yeah, I think I was definitely using this card because I don't play this format too much. I was definitely just trying to shove as much light and dark as I can and try to thin my deck so I could rip the power spells. But I mean, I think one of the things I learned throughout my tournament experience is how important it is to try to get all the hand rippers to your hand, or
Mm,
or lack thereof, because like one, they're not good later on in the game, and number two, if you're able to send enough pieces of power where the hand rip stuff is almost the worst cards to see, it's still a good idea, and it also loads of Magician of Faith too, which
yeah.
I did not personally play in my deck list, but looks like he's choosing Gravekeeper Spy there.
Yeah, that's an interesting card. I guess because they've got the TT, they're like, well, okay, if Clemens flips up the spy, then I TT the board because spy is mandatory. So, it's ultimately okay there, but definitely
Yeah,
not,
I'm
the ideal pick there for sure.
right. I've seen a lot of people on Gravekeeper Spy in
Yeah.
this tournament, which is interesting. I decided to go with Mystic Tomatoes
Mm,
because Mystic Tomato floats into Witch, Sanguine, and Scientist. So I felt that those were a bit more optimal. I do not hit 50-50 with
yeah.
Thunder
Honestly,
Dragons.
I think at that point you might not even fire duo if you know your opponent has double Thunder Dragon in hand, because like there is just the chance of hitting those two Thunder Dragons, and then that's just really unfortunate. But I guess they're setting up for a big play here to banish, so not the worst thing in the world, but um, still kind of awkward. But yeah, I think Mystic Tomato is a good option here. Similar to like Shining Angel, which a lot of people are playing just because there
Yeah,
are so few good lights, and Shining Angel floats into DD Warrior Lady and gets Light Engrave, so it's very good in that way as well.
yeah,
Um, Tomato can be very strong. The flaw with Tomato is that, with triple warrior leading running around, that can just banish the tomatoes away. But if your
right.
opponent's using up a DD warrior lady on a tomato, they're not using it up on another card. So ultimately,
That's
like
true
it's
too.
yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. But
And one thing I will make a comment about Breaker too is Breaker feels absolutely oppressive in this format. He
oh
feels
yeah,
stronger in this format than
yeah,
like
there's
he takes over Kaiku and then you get the +1 after it. Oh my, he's so good. He's so good in this format. Like you see him, I feel like your win rate just goes up just by seeing him. It's
oh
so
yeah,
crazy.
because like all the back row that people are playing are like broken, right? Because like there's so
Right.
little space in these decks for like, not really the best cards. So like, if your opponent has a set, it's probably going to be something like Mirror Force, Imperial Order. Like even if it's Ring, your
Yeah.
Breaker's still trading for Ring, right? So um it's going to be great like no matter what that back row is. And it can also be proactive against things like premature burial or snatch steal, like we saw Clemens use their breaker for that. um
Right.
Oof, Geki coming down, probably the end of the game here. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's Wardley, unless Barcode's playing that, Karibo tech, but no, no Karibo there.
Oh,
Um, yeah, very intense game
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There was a lot of back and forth, and the craziest thing is that I guess one of the biggest misconceptions of the format is that I think that people see like CED and BOS, and people think that those cards drop all the time, and it's
Mm,
almost like because there's so many Kaikus and like so many like wait and DD Warrior Ladies to keep cards out of graveyard, you almost rarely see those cards touch down. I
yeah.
found them more brickier in my games than I have like not, and I'm like. Wow. I'm like, man, I can't cut these cards though because they're the best cards in the game. Like, I can't cut them. So,
Yeah.
but it shows that the format is definitely geared towards beating this deck, and this seems to be obviously the indisputable best deck. I don't think anyone really. I played the mirror for the most part for the majority of Swiss and into Top Cut. I didn't see. I saw someone play Scientist FDK, but outside of that, that's still not a consistent enough deck to at least compete with what the Chaos deck really is, which is, you know, it is what it is. But people complain about their Tier Zero formats, but I like Tier Zero formats.
I'm in the same boat really. Like I think it's very interesting because it really just warped the format around it, right? Like you mentioned that like
Right.
people are trying to beat this deck, right? So they're playing the triple kaikus, they're playing things that are very good against this deck, and it can potentially allow other decks to sort of fight back, right? Like if you know your opponent's geared towards the chaos deck and your deck's doing something on a different axis, then maybe that can work out a bit better. We haven't
Right.
seen that manifest yet. There has been some experimentation. Like I know Earthbeat is something that people have been trying out because the idea is you get like too aggressive early on, and then your opponent they don't have time to set up their chaos monsters, so they can't bring them out.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, nothing's really toppled the chaos menace yet. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like, even if nothing ever does topple the chaos menace, it's like the mirror match, in my opinion, is still fun. Um, and
Yeah.
also, speaking to what you said earlier with like the chaos monsters almost never coming down, I feel like also one of the things that turned a lot of people away from this format is they think of the chaos Yata Lock, where you bring out CD, pop the entire board, you've got a Witcher Sandgate on field, so you search out Yata, and then you summon out Yata and win the game that way. Yata is still a very
Yes.
good card, don't get me wrong. I mean, you mentioned that you were on it as well, and it worked out
Video
very
out of
well
my
for you.
list.
Um,
Yeah,
so
the card was absurd. I see science in the barcodes deck, which I greatly appreciate. I think that card is absolutely ridiculous, and it's shocking that like I guess more people didn't incorporate it. Incorporate things like Fairy Lily and Fiber Jar, but what turned me off about those cards is that they were neither not light or dark monsters,
yeah,
and I was like, maybe that's like a bad way of thinking about it, but from personal perspective, it's just like when I played an inordinate amount of Chaos Turbo matches in Go format, and obviously the ceiling of that format is a lot smaller. Oh yes.
yeah.
Do we see said?
Oh wait,
Oh
is this
yes.
the Chaos Yata combo? Do they?
Is
Okay,
this
looks like
it?
they're not going for it. So they might actually not even be playing Yata in deck, or they might have it in hand. Um,
Interesting.
but yeah, I guess I we just said
I was getting
Chaos
really
Yata.
excited there.
Yeah. Oh, also
Oh,
Serpent can shut off the Chaos Yata combo as well, because like,
that's right. Yeah.
yeah. So, and people are playing Serpent just because, it's a very good card. It pairs with Tribe, it pairs with a bunch of things. Like after CD, it's one of the few things that you can sort of hold on to protect yourself. Um, so, yeah, I think the Chaos Yata combo is really not what everyone wants to be doing, but Yata is very powerful on its own. To speak on Scientist, I was actually one of the people who didn't play Scientist in my main, and my reasoning for this was because Scientist is a great card. Like, it can do so much. It's very, very versatile, and it is
Yeah.
a dark, so that plays into your chaos typing. However, if you like, let's say your opponent has a full board, and you bring a Scientist to crack the board, right? You're probably investing like 2,000 life points at minimum if your opponent has two
Yeah.
monsters, right? And that you still clear the entire board, but I do think life points matter like enough in this format. Like a CD could come down and just like kill you out of nowhere, and things like that. Where for me personally, I didn't want to play Scientist because of that. I thought like it was a bit too much of a glass cannon in a lot of situations, especially because I personally was playing a lower trap count. Um,
Okay.
but I do think that Scientist is definitely a very, very good card in this format, though. And I often think that like sometimes I undervalue Scientist a lot of the time, just because I'm focused on like the life point cost and how vulnerable it can make you. But if you use it correctly,
Sure.
you're not going to be vulnerable because you're just winning the game, right? So,
Right.
um,
We got to be able to answer Snatch Deal right now.
yeah, this is
It's
this is
yeah.
huge. Um, there's okay, there's the MST. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if that went through, like Clemens had a lot of different options there. They could have just done the more passive approach, just crashing CD into like DD Worley to hope to banish both of them. But the more threatening thing for Barcode is Clemens just like blowing up the entire board with like CD. Um,
Right.
Now
The one
Barcode
thing
could
that
search
there
out.
was
Hmm?
Sorry, the one thing that didn't mean to cut you off there was that he Monster Reborned back the Warrior Lady, which made me think he had Io in the back row. That's where my mind immediately went to.
Mm.
So it's interesting that he did not flip Io on Snatch if he has Io. But I guess like you want to commit more if you can answer certain spell cards with MST. I guess that you want to commit Io to. Okay.
This
All
is
right.
probably going to be the end of the game. Honestly, I think Reborn could have been the pick here as opposed to Graceful because, well, I guess if you're clogging up your board with the Warrior Lady, then you don't need it. But I think honestly, I think the reason why they reborn the Warrior Lady was because now there's no Chaos typing in Grave, and because like one of the things that could answer a CD is like a BLS or a CED of Clemens' own, and
Yeah. Right.
so yeah, so I think the back row doesn't have like ring in it. I don't think the back row's ring. Um, it's and Tsukiyomi. That's a very interesting tech here. That's a card that not many people are playing in this format. Um,
Yeah.
and if you're coming to this format from Goat, you might wonder why, because Tsukiyomi is crazy in Goat, right? You just flip down your monsters, get the continual pluses, and go from there. the thing is, in this format, there's difference in battle position rulings. So
Yeah.
basically, you can't manually change the battle position of a monster after it's been changed by an effect. So, for instance, if you
Really?
yeah, no, it's very strange. I don't know why it was originally that way, or like why they decided to change it. But you know the classic like Tsukiyomi Thousand Rider Strict Lock in Goat Control, where you've got a
Right.
Thousand Rider Strict up, you suck up your opponent's monster, summon out Sook, flip it down, attack him with Sook, then flip it up. You can't do that in this format because after it's flipped down by Sook, if it was an attack originally, then you can't actually flip summon it again that turn. So
Oh,
um, yeah, and yeah, this will be the end of the game. I think that's 6, yeah, 9. Yep. So that's 2,700 damage. So
yeah. Wow.
yeah,
Well, that's
intense
great. Well,
stuff.
I side decked Tsukiyomi, so and I did it to if people were not on three Kaikus, siding to three Kaikus, and now it's Kaiku, now it's Tribe, and that's Breaker.
Yeah,
And I sided into Moffs and Metamorphosis and Scapegoat. I realized really quickly that that sucks,
yeah,
but and I was like, but like yeah, I think like after this event, the way in which I approach the side deck is gonna be wildly different.
yeah. And side decking is strange in this
Yeah.
format. Like I think it's probably strange in
Yeah.
a lot of tier 0 formats. But the thing is, like, you're often like kind of pre-sided against most of the decks you're going to see because, like, as you mentioned, you mainly play Chaos Mirrors in this format.
Exactly.
Um, So sometimes the siding comes down to like bringing in cards that are good going first. Like if you're playing dust shoots in the side, bringing the dust shoots, can be very
Yeah.
good. Um, but sometimes it's just like uh you just don't really touch your deck really. You just swap out like a card here or there to like fine tune it a bit. But that's it. And it's very different from like later formats that are much more diverse where like, you're like, okay, well these decks are in the format and so I need to have things in my side to deal with those. Um,
Mhm.
so it's
Right, exactly. Like I think for me, like I side decked like you said, the triple dust shoots. I had also Solemns in my side deck too, because I was like, whatever, Solemn says no, so why not? I also had Feather Duster in my sideboard too with
mm,
Heavy. That came in going. Feather Duster came. Heavy did not come in at all, but
yeah,
Feather Duster came in going second, where I would swap out Painful Choice for it, and it's also like kind of getting a gauge of like what people have in their back row because you said it yourself. You don't play too many trap cards, and I saw some people with Sakuratu armors in the back row, and I'm like,
mm,
okay, I guess we're playing back row removal now for we're siding that in.
yeah,
I think it's just a warrior deck that in this format that plays that, but the warrior deck is missing a lot of pieces that come out in later sets that would be warriors in Go format, like no Blade Knights, no Ninja
mhm.
Grandmasters, like none of those, and those no MS2s. You play the Wind guy instead. That is just like the
Yeah.
Six
The
Swordsman level two.
the OG Sasuke Samurai. Um,
That guy.
yeah, but yeah, you're right. Like Warriors is a shell of its later self.
Right.
And so you can like honestly, a lot of the decks that are like labeled as like Warriors in this format are mainly just playing like a Rota package to go into like Warrior Ladies. If you're playing Exiled, which a lot of people aren't because it's an Earth type or Earth attribute, then you can go into that as well. But I
Right.
think like a lot of people don't really like the warrior deck in this format just because you don't really need that search power. Oh, this is a really good
It's
play from Barcode here.
really
Flipping up a
differential.
serpent, TTing the board. Now clones will be able to get a Sangan search off this, but still, I mean, pretty good trade. That serpent will come back later. And now you can potentially slam a Kaiku to board, banish Light and Dark from grave. So um, a lot of options for what to do here.
It's crazy also that Torrential is at 3 in this format too. I did
Yeah.
not learn that until I think it was either round 2 or round 3. One guy flipped torrential on me. I'm like, oh, well, I don't need to worry about torrential anymore. And he torrential me again, and I was like, what? And then I looked it up, and I was like, oh, I don't see this card on the limited list at all. Like,
Yeah, and the funny
but
thing, it's like TT is kind of necessary at multiples in this format, um, because like there's so many explosive plays that you can make. It really does curb a lot of the explosivity of it. Um, but yeah, it is kind of
yeah,
wild. It's a big adjustment, and a lot of people actually are not playing all three copies of it in their deck just because deck space is so tight in this format.
Right. I think for me, even in like Go format, I never in my Chaos Turbo list, I didn't find myself playing Torrential. In my Warrior list, I don't play Torrential. It's just like it's like you're sacrificing your own field presence without their field presence, which is depending on how you look at it, could be problematic from like trying to stay aggressive. But I think like going forward, and I totally, what the hell is that? Hold on.
4-star Ladybug of Doom coming in. That's
That's
kind of
hilarious.
wild.
That's so funny. But anyway,
Yeah.
my thought was playing more Raigeki breaks to supplement the Thunder Dragons and the Sinisters
Mm.
and stuff like that. And I think that, and also Raigeki break could hit your own Mirage too, or turn off their Mirage or anything like that. So it's a bit more ubiquitous with its targets more or less. But oh my god, this guy's playing. Is there a reason why people are playing this card? 4-star Ladybug of Doom.
I
Holy
honestly don't
smoke!
know. Like honestly, I think so in past formats, like there's Android format, which is Labyrinth of Nightmare around then. And like that's a very big beater heavy format. And so
Yeah.
you're playing like Kaiku, Bazoo, Gemini Elf, things like that. And so 4-star Ladybug of Doom has seen niche play there. That's really the only place really I've seen it played. So
That's so
maybe
cool though.
yeah, maybe they're just like inspired by some of the decks there, and they're like, oh, I'll try it out in Chaos. Maybe it'll do stuff. But I guess it does deal with Spy, you know.
It does get spy.
So that's kind of funny. I hadn't considered that, but um, it is a little bit awkward here. Change coming down on the set, probably reading that it's the 4-star Ladybug, I'd assume. But uh,
Yeah.
Barco did know about the change from the Comfy turn one, so I feel like it's
Hmm.
probably just Serpent. But it is tough to say.
It is tough. Yeah. I mean, if it's the 4-star, then I guess like Ladybug is 1200 defense, so Spy can't even run it over either, right? So
Yeah.
Haiku the Ghost Destroyer.
Okay, yeah.
There
So
we
it's definitely not 4-star, or else um, Clemens would have just flipped it up, attacked him with everything, right? Um,
Right.
so it's probably like Serpent, either that or like Fiber Jar maybe, and you're saving it till main two just to flip it up there. But like, I'm
Definitely
not sure
not.
why you wouldn't just flip it up if it's like Serpent or something.
Yeah. One of the I think that when it comes to like change of heart, especially, I noticed that like the Thunder Dragon builds take a better advantage of change of heart than those who are not playing with change of heart, like or playing with the Thunder Dragons, because it's almost like you're waiting for like a DD Warrior Lady and another monster to be on their field, then you could 2-for-1 them with it, or
Yeah,
else you don't really have many ways of converting off the change of heart. Um, I stacked. I took monsters with change of heart and sacrificed them with Thunder Dragon like 5 times this entire tournament. It
yeah.
was so good,
it's
so good.
it's one of the biggest strengths of playing Thunder Dragons, because some people go back and forth on Thunder Dragon. Some people are like, well, if you're in a bad spot and you draw Thunder Dragon, then it's sort of just a brick and doesn't do anything, and then you might just lose
Right.
from that. But like, if you do get it early and you're able to deck thin a bit to draw into your power cards more often, and also combo with things like Change of Heart, like Snatch Deal, both of which are legal in this format, it's just so good. And also, like as you were saying with Raigeki Break pitching a Thunder Dragon is also incredibly strong too. Um,
Right. It's
so
not like there's. It's not. It's not in this format yet, right? It's not
which
legal.
card?
Night Assailant.
Yeah, Night Assailant is not in this format yet. That comes out the
Okay.
set after this format wraps up. But
Okay.
I actually experimented with that format a little bit because no one really plays it. So I just tested it out to see what it would be like, and it is basically Tier Zero Reasoning Gate Turbo. Because
Wow.
yeah, you've got triple DMOC, you've got Monster Gate now, you've got Reasoning, and there is so many crazy things you can do with that. So yeah, unfortunately, Night Assailant doesn't really do much in there, but in the format after that Warrior format, Night Assailant can do a little bit more, because things are banned now, so the power level's gone down a bit. And Night Assailant is at 3, so you can do some neat stuff with like Raigeki breaks and things like that. So, um, yeah,
But then, so you're saying that like even so, DMOX at 3 in this format too, right?
yeah.
It's a
And there have been some experimentations for like 3 mock decks where they play triple D mock and they're trying to like combo off with like dimension fusion and things like that. Um, those decks haven't managed to actually convert to like topping on any of the tournaments that we've held
Right.
yet. I could definitely see them doing it eventually. It's just like, people are still tinkering with them, still trying to optimize them. And when those decks do go off, they are really strong. It's just like absolutely wild turns. Um,
Yeah.
but it's unfortunately it's just not quite at the point where it's getting like tournament success yet. But that's one of the potential ideas for like breaking up the tiered zeroness of this format. Um,
Uh,
and so it's oh, this is interesting. Premat for oh that I see. Yeah. Um, I was perplexed by this play because I was like premat for
yeah.
Moth like, but yeah, going for the Sook makes a lot of sense. They could have also done premat for Scientist, brought out like Flare Knight, tried to attack over Spy, but I think this is a little bit more safe, especially with 3,000 life points left. Um,
Yeah. Definitely.
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that the monster that if you bring a monster off a scientist, like a
Mhm.
fusion off scientist, and then you Tsukiyomi the fusion monster, it does not go back to the extra deck, right?
that is
It just
correct.
stays as
Yeah,
okay.
it it will stick around. That's a very powerful combo that you can do with Sook. It is somewhat passive because then you got to wait a turn, right? But yeah, I think it could have been potentially the right move here. Again, the one risk is that like you're at 3,000 life points. Bring back Scientist. Science drops you down to 2,000. Um,
Right.
and yeah, so
We to make that play with Raigeki break at the main phase and not the standby phase.
yeah,
That's
I guess they must have been thinking about a different play first, and then they just decided, well, okay, I'm not going to do that play. I'm going to do the bit of the safer play, and just play it passive. So
fair.
they might,
Sapphire the Dark.
yeah. Zambire's pretty good here, clearing that
Sapphire.
spy. Zambire's another card with Rhoda that you can go into. Dark Warrior gets
Yeah.
over spy. Um, so people are experimenting with this as well. But oh, there's Mirror Force. So
Take
uh,
that all day long. We take that
yeah,
all day long. Yeah.
1-for-1 trade puts another Dark Engrave. Like you're feeling very good about that. And I think honestly that signals to me that Clemens is in kind of a desperate spot. Um, because like if they had something to deal with this board, they would just like let the Zamira hit over the spy and then like do whatever they had to deal with it the next turn. But as is, this is kind of it seemed like a desperate play there. Um, that being said, I think they probably have another Raigeki break in the back row because they did keep the Serpent in hand.
Yeah. Either it's like a misstep or you don't have Raigeki break back there. It's either
Yeah.
one of those two things. There's really very zero justification for keeping Sinister. Oh, that's a nice trade too.
Oh yeah. And this signals to me even more that they don't have break or that they have break in the back row because otherwise you could set Sinister to bait Barcode into attacking it with the DD War Lady to banish that. Can you care a lot more I think about the Witch going off than the Sinister sticking around because Barcode's at 3,000 life points. There are a lot of situations where if you get a big beater to hand, you're going to be in a winning position relatively soon. So yeah. I mean, they could have also just like valued the serpent more because I don't know the. Oh well, with card destruction, maybe they were just valuing the serpent more, but uh, yeah, that's very interesting because yeah, they knew about the Sook, so they knew what they were getting rid of there. So this must just been they just want to draw deeper into the deck. Um, but card destruction is a very interesting card in this format. Because as you mentioned, there's no Night Assailant out right now. Um,
Right.
yeah, so oh, apparently the stream keeps moving backwards, and I don't know what that issue is. It seems like it's fine on my end, but yeah, Harpy's coming down, meeting an IO here, and Clemens has got there's the 4-star. Okay, so popping that
There
spy.
it is.
Um,
Oh,
oh, and Breaker to potentially pop the IO, but
collection.
Ring is coming down for that. Um, yeah. So that's very, very good for Clemens here because now Barcode's at a very low amount of life points. Get a very weak monster in attack. Um, so yeah, this is very good for them. Very intense game, by the way. Like this is
Yeah, I thought this Ladybug should have done its thing so much. really preserved the hell out of this bug. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if I agree with that in particular. Like, that's a
Yeah.
massive board right video. Just also a wind too. It's a Call the Haunted too.
Call
All right.
bring back Zimbar to get in. I think honestly, like they should have done they should have summoned Breaker first and then flipped up Ladybug, if they were gonna do that play. Because I think probably they've got a very powerful spell in the back row, and they're planning on getting rid of the order. They could have also just been trying to get rid of the other back rows to like sort of insulate an aggressive push here, but yeah, it's a very scary spot for Barcode to be in for sure. Oof.
Oh,
And that Moth is going to be really good here for Clemens. Because IO, one of the most broken things about IO is that you can just drop it when you want to. And we might be
right.
seeing that happen next turn, depending on what Clemens has got.
It's so funny because even with IO, I played in the current format when it got unbanned, and they made it like a mandatory effect that you had to like pay every standby phase and then keep it onto the field, and it was just as ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
the card was so good even in like 2019, 2020. I remember I was playing a striker and was playing dinosaur, and then you just make a Logia and then flip up order, and it's like, all right, you lost, the game's over.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. God, such one of the most unfair cards in the game's history, hands down.
I
You
think
could have rotted to
honestly,
oblivion.
yeah, in a format filled with just broken cards, like completely disgusting cards, IO, in my opinion, is the most disgusting. Like, it is the one that, the other cards, I'm like, if it gets fired at me, I'm like, okay, sure, but I can play around it a bit, right? Like, if my opponent fires Dark Hole or Raigeki, it's like, ah, damn, you wiped out some of my board. But, I've been keeping in mind that you could have Raigeki or Dark Hole, so I can, like, sort of keep monsters in hand to use later, right? IO is just like, you either have MST or you don't. And if you don't have MST,
Right.
it's just kind of like, well, that's too bad, Uh,
Right. It's one of those few cards that, like, you can't just blind MST back rows. You have to activate your spell card with MST in hand and hoping to God to answer IO. That's how powerful IO is that you have to hold it specifically for that card there. Because
yeah,
if you just MST preemptively, you're going -1 on it. And you still can't out the IO anyway. It's kind of one of the reasons why I did not play Duster in the main deck, because it's like, all right, well, if you're setting a bunch of back row, you're going to have IO back there anyway. Like, there's no
yeah.
other reason to do it. So it's my God, like there's a lot of ridiculous. I would say it's up there. Oh my God, there's
Dark
there's
Hole
the Dark Hole.
coming
You see
down. Oof.
order here.
Yeah. I mean, Barcode had to know about the risk of Dark Hole, so that has to be something that they're fine losing here, right? Yeah, yeah, it's Witch. Um,
Yeah, with Sinister Witch.
I think honestly they could have maybe just summoned that and tried to get in more damage.
For sure.
But yeah, Fiber Jar is also in this format. Um,
This
all
card's hilarious.
Yeah. And, I know that a lot of people don't like Fiber Jar for good reason, right? Because, it does reset the game state, but I think it leads to a lot more interesting interactions here. It's another way to deal with chaos because it shuffles back in their lights and darks. Um, it is, I think there is some level of skill to it because you
Yes.
need to know when to actually set your Fiber Jar and when not to. Um, and I just think it's a really cool card. Um,
Mm.
and it's one of those cards that you don't think will be cool until you play the format, and then you're like, okay, this is, I like this somewhat. Um, but yeah, that Graceful is going to be pretty good here too.
I mean, Fiber Jar is another one of those, like, it's just like game mechanic wise how insane it is. Like, what you have on it, it's just insane. It's just insane. It doesn't
Yeah.
it bends the rules of the game around it. I mean, it's still banned in the modern format. It's Buster.
Duster.
Wow.
Will Barcode have the eye of their own? They
There's
do
the
indeed have the
order.
eye.
And the
But yeah,
MST.
I mean, that's just skill
Yeah.
issue right there, Okay, but going for
Yeah.
MST on this other back row, so insulate a little bit from that, but still kind of scary to see.
A
Especially
lot
because
of MST.
no chaos monsters have been used up yet. Oh, in Charity with double Thunder Dragon in hand. Yeah, this might just be the end of the game. Because there are exactly 5 cards total here. If CD gets dropped and then Clem just fires CD, then that is it. That's 1,500 damage.
Right. And it's like Raigeki, Dark Hole is gone on the opponent's hand, so they don't have any healthy way, painful choice.
Yeah.
I guess that now
That
it's debating whether to pick the jar or not, what they get. I'm surprised. I'm curious to see what they have left in their deck there.
yeah.
It's
I mean, this to me also tells me that they don't have CD in hand. So Barcode is probably breathing a sigh of relief about that. Um, because if you have CD, you just fire CD and you win. Um,
yeah, top
so
there. If you had, yeah, that's enough. That's just enough.
yeah, it's
That's
barely
1500.
enough, but
Barely
uh,
enough. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. They might have BLS in hand, in which case they might just be trying to send 5 monsters that have 1400 or more attack, or just ways to clear that fiber jar to let the BLS hit through. Um, but there is the question of like how many cards do they actually have left that allow them to win the game if they've got BLS in hand. And if they don't have BLS in hand, then they're in kind of an awkward spot here. I guess you can deck thin to make it more likely that you'll get to the BLS or CED. But
Forceful Reborn.
yeah, honestly,
Breaker.
if I'm Barcode, I'm probably just picking the Forceful automatically here, unless something like
Yeah.
far worse gets sent. But um, I think you just have to play around like they've got BLS in hand, right? Because if they've got
Right.
BLS in
It's
hand, yeah, any of those win. And you're still losing a card from hand, so that's unfortunate, right?
yeah, it's like if you choose the forceful, you're guaranteed to have another turn there
Exactly.
because you. And I mean, like, listen, this format is all about you can rip the Stone Cold Crazy right off the top. So, and here's the thing what I will say about this format is that if you're a player that like rages to top decks or gets angry when you get sacked or whatever, it's like if you play enough of this format, you're like, okay, like obviously there's a skill there's technical play that does come into this format where we're in game states like this, but then there's also those times where it's like holy shit, like they topped Raigeki or they topped Dark Hole and then they summoned the bird and the bird ended the game or whatever. Like there's definitely moments like that. So if you're someone who's that gets angry at Yu-Gi-Oh, play this format. You won't be too angry at Yu-Gi-Oh the more that you play it. At least
Yeah.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so.
No, I agree. It's like sort of inoculating yourself against sacks, right? Because you'll be sacking, your opponent will be sacking, but like that's part of the fun of it, right? And I think like a lot of people sort of like hyper fixate on whether every format is like the best format out there, right? Because they just want to play the best format of Yu-Gi-Oh out there, right? Um and I don't think that's a bad thing
Horrible
to
noise.
yeah, like it's first of all, I don't think there is like a best format of Yu-Gi-Oh. Because it will vary from person to person and what people like in their games. But also, I think like it's good to play a variety of formats so that if you do want a specific type of gameplay, you can get it. And oh, okay, no BLS here. Okay, so that was a
Oh,
risky.
okay.
That was a
We
risky.
recording this whole game right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
but whew, that was intense. Oh, and
Oh,
change too. That's probably just going to be the end, right? Depending on what the set is. I mean, the set might be Fiber Jar, but oh, it's Faith. Oh my goodness.
Faith needs to. Do we have a reborn card in our graveyard or an extender? Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Premature.
bring
That's
that.
it.
Wow, that
Ah,
was intense. Wow, it really did just come down to whether Clemens actually drew the BLS or not,
wow.
and that
Yeah,
was
that
rough.
fiber jar search. It's so crazy on how fiber jar like forces your opponent to just play so like even if he had BLS, he couldn't just attack into the fate there unless
Yeah,
he was ballsy enough to do it. Wow. It's like you have to respect it, and that's so crazy. There's all 6 cards left in this guy's deck, and there's no chaos monsters.
yeah.
Holy shit.
I mean, sometimes you sack, sometimes you get the anti-sacks, and you're like, damn, where are my power cards? Uh, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that was a crazy final.
this was like, I mean, this was so good. Like this was probably the best sort of final we could have asked for. I'd say, down to the wire, intense gameplay on both players' ends. Just great stuff all around. So let's see if we can actually get them in the stream just to like talk about, you know, their feelings about the game and like whether they would have done things differently, what their thoughts were at these like very intense plays. And
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's just see. I'll ping them. Yeah, because I mean, there's just so much here, and I really want to pick Barcode's brain about like this final play because that is so ballsy, but it did pay off for them. Like it, I think that won them the game because yeah, I mean, hello, welcome Clemens to the stream.
Hey, Vsux, and straight out of Compton.
Yeah,
Call me Nick. That's fine. What's going on?
these were some
Yeah,
intense games for sure. So what were your thoughts in this final match in particular, like this final game, and going for that painful because that was a huge painful, and I think you sent the right stuff, but it was like, and also for you Barcode as well because that was a very interesting pick on that painful. Like we were talking about it in stream, we were like, well, if Clemens has BLS, then any of the cards besides forceful just loses Barcode the game. So we were thinking that you were going to pick the forceful, but instead you picked breaker. So what were both of your thoughts on that? Like both in terms of choosing what to send and also picking what to give them. So let's
so should I
yeah, let's start
start?
with Clemens because that's the sends, and then we'll ask Barcode because that's the pick.
Yeah, I was checking my grave and I saw that I did not have enough cards to finish the game. Like I had BLS and CD, and that was it, so I could not send those.
Mm.
And so I sent 5 cards that like didn't cost me anything and weren't that like um, so I had like Dust Shoot left and Mirage and stuff, but those were all dead. So
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. How about you, Barcode? What was your thoughts behind picking the breaker out of those five?
Well, if I gave him the Forceful and he had BLS, he would see I had Fiber Jar in my hand and it wasn't set, so he could just
Mm.
double attack anyway. So it didn't matter. If he had BLS, he just won.
Yeah,
Mm.
no, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah,
There's
I was just
definitely
thinking, if he doesn't have BLS, how do I stop him winning? Set up to win next turn.
yeah, and
exactly because like I was the way in which I was looking at it is that like if you set the monster and we know sucks and I thought it was the fiber jar itself, and it's like you have to respect that. So when I saw Clemens sending out a bunch of monsters more than 1400 attack, you think that okay, like there's soldiers in the hand somewhere, and soldier cannot attack or else risk fiber jar doing the thing and shuffling everything back. So the fact that it was faith was it was so ballsy to keep it set because you could definitely try to go all right, we'll see what happens. We just slam BLS and see what happens. But obviously it was the case that you guys went through 75% of your deck and just did not see either of the chaos monsters, which I guess made the gameplay a lot more back and forth than what it is here.
yeah, and this was intense stuff. So after playing these games and also playing the whole tournament, what are both of your like thoughts on the format as a whole and where you see it going from here? Tech cards that you might have played that you think other people weren't, that you think more people should try out, or things that you tried out that were kind of underwhelming for you when you thought they would actually be good. Um, so let's start with Barcode because you are the winner of the tournament. Congratulations on that, by the way. Uh, so what were your thoughts on the deck you brought, and just anything that you changed for the future?
Thank you. Well, it was interesting. I kind of threw the deck together a couple minutes before it started, and there's a few things I changed. I'd put the Sinister in the main deck for sure. I'd probably take out Kaiku. I don't think Kaiku does enough.
Ooh, that is an interesting
And
comment there because a lot of people keep the Kaikus in the main because they're basically like, oh, everyone's playing Chaos. I gotta like pre-side against Chaos. What's the best thing against Chaos? Kaiku. So, uh, what are your thoughts behind like Kaiku not doing enough? Like, what do you mean by that?
oh, he just dies to monsters.
Mm,
And they're gonna get a Chaos Monster off at some point anyway. I think it's kind of unrealistic to expect it to stop them the whole game.
mm.
So I think he just doesn't do enough. He'll die to a Tsukuyomi, Zambira, something like that. And it's
Yeah,
just a -1.
yeah, that makes a lot of
He gets walled
sense.
by spies. A lot of people get in spy.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of spy, because we saw this tech in the last game, 4-star Ladybug of Doom. That is a very, very interesting card. And we were sort of like flabbergasted when we first saw it, but then we were thinking like, well, okay, for spies, it deals with that. There's no Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke in this format, so you know, it's kind of like a build your own Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke. So, what were your thoughts on 4-star Ladybug of Doom?
It was good. I started it in a few times this tournament, and I mean, basically every threat in the format, other than the two Chaos Boss monsters, is level 4. So I can usually kill 2 or 3 monsters.
Mm. Yeah, and it's a really clever card. I'm sure a lot of people did not see it coming, uh, and that's really cool. So I hope more people experiment with that in the future. Um, any other cards that will like you were like, you know, everyone should be playing this, or like people should not be playing as much of this?
Um, I think 3 Magician of Faith is good. The spell cards in the format are so good. I
Mm.
think 3 Magician of Faith is the way to go. That's
Eh,
probably the main thing. A
yeah,
lot of the format, like 30, 35 of your cards, is kind of obvious, but what you do with the last few does matter.
yeah, and it's always interesting to see what people do with that last few, because a lot of the times you might think, oh well, this won't really matter, and a lot of games it won't matter because you know someone just opens the busted power cards and they just like dominate the game from that. Um, but it really can come up a lot of the time. And I feel like oftentimes the difference between tournament success and like washing out in Swiss can just be those 5 cards there. Um, Clemens, like, how about you? What anything in your deck that like you felt was particularly interesting tech that you haven't seen many people on and you think is really good, or anything that you tried out that you don't really want to play again in the future?
Yeah, as you saw, I played the Thunder Dragons,
Mm.
and I was one of the few people that did that in the tournament, I think. Like most people are on Shining Angels, and kind of funny that both me and Barcode were not running those.
Mm.
And yeah, the Thunder Dragons are pretty situational. Like, I think I might cut them in the future because I also tried to combine them with the card destruction, but it's not so easy to gain advantage of that. And yeah, like I think Shining Angel might be better.
Yeah. But you know, the fact that, you know, you made it to finals with Thunder Dragon and like we've seen a lot of great players on Thunder Dragon, you know, doing well. So maybe it's something to consider. Maybe not with card destructions, but we did see Raigeki breaks, you know, this game. Um and those seem pretty good. So maybe there's more to consider there. Um
Yeah,
Definitely. And
yeah. I
I
also
also
played one Raigeki break. Maybe you need to run 2, but not sure.
yeah. Well, I think it's just very cool, like because we were talking about how this is like kind of a tier 0 format and stuff. And so you're always gonna be facing the same sorts of decks. But it's just I think tier 0 formats are partially cool because the innovation that happens in them is very different from innovation in a lot of other formats where it's not necessarily people looking for the next new deck idea, but it's people looking for the next new tech and like things that can give them the edge in the mirror and things like that. And I think like both of your decks were very interesting. They were doing some things that, you know, some people were not. And I'm very curious to see how people continue to experiment with some of the choices here in the future. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to see how this format grows. Would you all recommend this format to other people to like try out and play?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it was the first format that made me join the format library Discord server.
Oh wow.
Like in January of last year, like someone on the ladder wrote Chaos, and I joined their game, and then they said join this server. You can play Chaos there.
Oh well, it's just fitting that you made it to the finals of the first Chaos Cup then. Um,
Mm.
yeah. How about you, Barcode? What are your thoughts on the format?
It's interesting. Some of the games are kind of just silly with how strong some of the cards are, but most of the games are pretty fun, so I'd give it a try. It's definitely not the best format, but
Yeah.
I think some good games.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't need the best format, you just need a fun format. And I think that this is definitely very, very fun a lot of the time. So I encourage anyone out there who's watching the stream, interested in playing the format to try it out. You can either join the Chaos Corner Discord server, which is linked in the description of this video, You can join the YGO from Zero Discord server, which is also linked in the video. You can join Format Library as well, which isn't linked in the video just because there are already so many links in the description that I didn't want to fit too many more, but I've linked to it in some other videos, and it's linked in the Discord that I mentioned. A lot of great places to play this format. I think that there will be more Chaos Cup tournaments coming in the future. So if you want to play in tournaments, there will be more of those. So look forward to those. But yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed the stream. Be sure to check out LilManYGO as well. Link to his stuff in the description as well. And yeah, just like and subscribe if you're not already. And until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'll be signing off. See y'all next time. Okay, so that is the